Tina, why EFT?
Funnily enough, I was called to it. I was Googling and looking for something to fit into my healing modalities, and I came across Australian Tapping Institute, and I felt right, something resonated. So I sent Lorna an email and inquired about courses, and she told me when the next intake day was, and I started to sign up. And so before I went to that intake day, I'd never had any experience with tapping at all. And so on that intake day was the first time I ever tapped. And I tapped with an experienced woman called Hannah, and it just, where it felt right, but I just got goosebumps, where it felt right before, it then felt right. And I knew I was meant to follow this path. And I can answer now why, but at the time I wouldn't have been able to tell you. Now I understand that it's a quicker way of moving through obstacles because we're focusing on the words as well as the physical. So tapping on the meridian points enables and accelerates the removal of those blocks by making us more present and mindful.
Awesome. And what did you learn about yourself?
The first day at that intake day, I tapped with Hannah, and we were told to tap on a dead cat. And I asked Hannah and asked Lorna if we could tap on something else. And I started to tap on my weight loss and holding of the weight. And I felt the power between Hannah and I. And I knew that stuff was shifting for me as soon as we finished, and then I left. But in the last year, I've been on a weight loss journey that happened organically, and it started with loving myself and learning to love and be grateful for my body, and then it went into food and exercise and the rest. So I've lost weight since starting my tapping journey, but I've also feel that it's hit a point that was missing in the work that I already do as a healer, in that it's enabled me to have a tool that I always have with me that is easy to access and easy to work with people, rather than taking my sound healing bowls or the massage table around for the other things that I do. It's more convenient. And so it's finished or completed a hole that existed in my healing modalities for me.
Awesome.
So it enables me to service people better.
What did you learn about yourself?
Thank you for picking up on my deflection, Lara. What did I learn about myself? I have learned that I can hold space effectively for people.
Sure can.
Thanks. And I've been validated in the path that I've chosen in a way that none of my other modalities have ever validated me, I guess. And that's because of the mentoring and feedback I received from Lorna. So I've learned that I am capable of achieving anything that I work hard and set my mind to achieve. And that's probably a less deflective but better answer.
Thank you for that.
That's all right. Anytime.
I feel like asking, what did that look like for you?
Beautiful.
You know, like...
Look at you following the coaching journey and just trusting your gut and holding space.
I'm hearing Lorna in this ear and I'm hearing you in this ear.
That's brilliant. So what does that look like for me?
Yeah, like what did you learn? What did that look like for you as you were learning it?
I don't think I was conscious I was learning it as I was learning it, to be honest. I think receiving praise has always been hard for me, and I regard validation as praise. And so it took me a while to move through the blocks that I'd put up towards that. And actually, to be honest, it helped the most when I was told to leave ego at the door and not worry about anything that happens in a session, and just trust that I can hold space. Therefore, if I'm present with my client, if I'm engaging with them, if I'm looking at them and reading them, it will all be okay. And I think, so that's what it looks like. That's what I've learned looks like. It's complete engagement and presence with my clients, and then together we're able to move through blocks. And that is a blessing for me, because when I'm working with people in that space, I feel like the luckiest person alive. I'm going to cry.
Wow. So I can really hear the space, giving people space and letting your ego go is really important.
Vital in any healing work, but definitely when we're tapping, because we need to connect with the language of our client, and it is so important to use their words, and sometimes that means throwing words out that don't quite resonate, but it enables and empowers the client to find those words for themselves and then express them, which then empowers them and leads them to their own healing, which is what I believe healing is about. We just, as healers, we hold space for other people to empower themselves, and then we teach them the strategies, and tapping is one of those vital strategies that we can share and people can then utilize for themselves afterwards.
What's your name of your business?
Yeah.
And what are you up to with it? How far are you with it?
So my business name is Akashic Healing, AKASHIC, and Akashic means of the soul. It's also a reference to the Akashic records, obviously, and so who we are at a soul level, becoming empowered to heal in this lifetime, in this incarnation, which tells you that I've got a few Fruit Loop beliefs as well and ideas. But yeah, so Akashic Healing is of the spirit, of the soul. And where it's currently at is I resigned from teaching at the end of 2018. I have been a full-time English teacher for 26 years, and I run another smaller business, which is my bread and butter, and that affords me the opportunity to grow my healing business without putting financial pressure on it. And so I am in the process of, I have a client base and running workshops and basically answering any call I feel to serve.
Do you think you can use your healing and your tapping together?
Always.
Can you do that?
Absolutely. Always. It's synonymous. Tapping is one technique, one strategy that is easy for a client to follow, that yields exceptionally fast results. My other business is a tutoring business, and those children, because I've got such wonderful parents in that business, and the children are often, we do tapping together, because a lot of kids today suffer from stress and anxiety. And what happened, the last week, one of my students was putting himself into a tailspin, and he was freaking out quite big about some upcoming exams, and he's more than capable. But I just said, oh man, you need to stop doing this, let's tap on it. And he just laughed because he thinks they're my hippie ways, but he's tolerating of it. And we did literally the setup point, and we did one round on his face, and he started to breathe. And I said, you all right? He said, yeah, I'm good now, we can go back to work. And we just literally did one round around his face, and he was completely calm. And even today, and I've used tapping with a lot of people and have seen some amazing results, it never stops impressing and amazing me at how fast, if someone is willing to receive and willing to do the work and accept, how fast it transforms their obstacles. It just gobsmacks me.
Wow. And so with healing, what does that look like when you heal? When you say the word healing?
For me, a healer is someone that holds space for other people, and we hold space by being present. And then depending on what modalities that healer has, they'll use different modalities to accelerate healing, like physical healing, or it will enable them to remove blocks so that they can process events and traumas and move through them and find solutions for themselves. The modalities that I use are tapping, coaching, meditation, writing, Reiki, sound, and I think I've forgotten something, but and counselling strategies. Yeah.
Wow, it's a whole lot of toolboxes that you've got there going.
It is, because everybody's different, and it's also impressed upon me that even though I have that toolbox, that not every client is the right fit for me, and I'm not the right fit for every client. So, and that's why in the first session it's really important to see if we can share space, and if I can hold space for someone, and if there's a connection and a willingness to work further with each other.
I like the fact too that that you're willing to say it's not going to work. if you don't have that rapport with them.
Yeah.
You're not willing to just keep going with it.
I feel like I'm robbing people.
Yeah.
I think it would be ego driven for me to say I'm everybody's fix-it. I'm not. I don't believe I'm anybody's fix-it except for my own, and that's because the byline in my business name is Akashic Healing, Empower Yourself. And I believe that all a healer has permission to do is hold space to empower other people to do the work to heal themselves. And I think that's the longer lasting healing. If they're just going through the motions with me of doing what I say and we're tapping things through, but they're not actually moving forward in their life, then what we're doing is not working.
That's right. And then they're getting you to rely on you to help them out.
Absolutely.
And they keep coming back to you, but that's not the whole idea, is it?
No, the point is that they only need me for a short period of time to hold space for them, and then they are empowered to move forward themselves.
I think that's what I like about the course as well, is that Lorna's there to help us to empower ourselves.
Absolutely.
She'll guide us and help us and believe in us, but we need to just step out there and
trust ourselves. And I think that's what Lorna gave me, is that ability to trust myself. Look, the best advice, and I repeat it to everybody, and I've repeated it to you, is that we've got to leave the ego at the door. I told Lorna that before one of my first sessions with her that I was really nervous, and she said, "Oh, that's your ego speaking." I thought, oh, you could pander it a little bit, but no, there was no pandering. It was just, that's your ego speaking. Just leave that at the door, will you? Didn't even acknowledge that I was allowed to be nervous. I said, "Isn't it good that I'm nervous because it means I care?" No, that's just your ego. I thought, yeah, okay, right, whatever.
But the ego is also very, very hard to hear as well, because you don't know if it's nerves or if it's just...
If it's nerves, it's ego.
Okay.
If it's anything except being calm and still, it's ego. And so anything that enters in, so it's normal to have fear when we're trying new things. We'd be mad if we didn't. But it's important to acknowledge it and say, okay, fear, I know you're here, and I'm accepting that you're here, but I don't want you to run this show. I need you to keep your mouth closed, sit in the back seat. I'm taking control of the car.
So would you do the same thing with ego then?
Absolutely, and I have done, and that's exactly what I did do. That first I thought, yep, and so I still get a little bit nervous before clients or before I even meet people, but I always now say, that's ego, time to step in the back. I'm acknowledging you're here, that's okay, but we need to hold space and you're not important in that. This isn't your place.
I love the way you say you're very accommodating and acknowledging, but you're not aggressive with that ego side or that anxiety side or that ego.
No,
Yeah,
that
like
doesn't
that.
serve anyone. It's important.
But you're accepting of your own emotions.
Have to be.
Yeah.
Well, I can't hold space for other people if I'm letting my stuff get in the way of that. Because if I'm present, if my emotions are present, if they're dominating, then I'm not holding space for that person to enable them to do what they need to do for themselves. I'm failing in my role as a healer holding space.
But you could pretend that, but you're also doing it for yourself as well. You know, you're also counselling yourself and saying, yeah, I understand you're there, and I'm going to put you in the back seat. You come out later, or whatever the case may be.
I think it's important we own the fact that we're human, that we're all on our own journeys. Some of us are just at different levels or different parts of the path, really, that we're on. And you've got to accept it. It's important to own it. If I can't own my stuff, how can I expect the person in front of me to own their stuff? Which is also partly why I needed to go on a weight loss journey, because whilst ever I was carrying extra weight for myself, it suggested that as much work as I've done on healing myself, I've still got residual there, and I've still got stuff that's stopping me from being my best self. And if I'm going to say to people, hey, I'm a healer, then it's really important that I'm walking the talk. I don't need to be perfectly accomplished, but I at least need to be doing the work. And if I'm not doing the work, then I'm being fraudulent, and I'm letting ego come in again.
So what's your next step with this? You graduated, so what are you
graduated.
Yeah, awesome.
Very excited. I'm now finishing off my sound diploma, and then I intend revolutionising and taking over the world, really. One tapping
New Zealand,
person at a time.
Tasmania?
No, by world I meant world. Actually, by world I mean cosmos. I mean the whole entire universe.
Okay.
Yeah. I've got work to do back home up in the stars.
Okay.
No, I intend growing my business and offering more workshops and helping people heal. I ran a business tapping circle for a business network I belonged to last week, and that was very successful. And it never ceases to amaze me how when people tap, there's this moment where they realise something shifted for them. And so they go from skepticism to, all right, I'm going to try this, with resignation, to a moment where you can see something's clicked for them, and they get this like deer in the headlights almost sort of look of, oh my God, what's happening to me? And then they get still, and it's like, oh wow. And that watching that process unfold in a client, I've got goosebumps talking about it, is such a gift. Such a gift. And to know that it can be that easy. That people can move and shift through obstacles and challenges that fast, it's all just a gift. I feel so blessed to be on this journey and then to share parts of that with other people. And also remembering we learn as much from our clients as they gain from us. We learn how to improve our craft because we're present, we're watching, we're mindful. And then in our reflection afterwards, we can say, okay, that didn't work, that could work. Another piece of advice that Lorna gave on my intake day was that we can get so bogged down in the processes of, you've got to do this first, then you've got to do that, then you've got to do that, make sure you do this, check in the SUDS rating, do this, do that, make sure you give them their home play, all that sort of thing, that we get so, oh my God, I'm not ticking off my checklist isn't there, what, I've forgotten to do that, oh my God, I've got to throw that in now, oh my God, that if we're doing that, we're not holding space. And so just letting it go. Our clients don't know what our checklists are. If they're gaining something from it, we're doing it right. And if we're holding space and we've left ego out of it, we're definitely doing it right. And we're creating an environment where people can shift. And that's what we're there to do. And that's what tapping does really effectively, really quickly. And the only resource you need is you and your client.
The other question I wanted to ask you was, what do you prefer? Do you prefer just single counselling tapping sessions, or do you like group sections?
I have to be honest, for tapping, I prefer individual sessions. For all of my other healing, I prefer group stuff. Okay. I like the group energy and the group dynamic, but for tapping, I prefer the one-on-one. I think in a group, yes, everybody gains benefits, and I've seen that happen time and time again. One-on-one, that person's the priority, and when you're face-to-face with them and you're holding that space with them, there's something magical in being able to target their needs really quickly.
One of my questions was when we do triads and stuff and things like that, how did you approach that? Did you find that nerve-wracking, or did you?
Of course it was nerve-wracking. I was really lucky that I was triaded up with Hannah, who was my initial entry into it all, and Mary, who's also quite an experienced healer. So I was very lucky that those two knew tapping. And look, I think we would have learned from our triads that we all came here to do our first run, and we weren't exactly sure of what we should do, and we were all a bit excited to be in each other's space and company, so we did them slightly wrong. But having said that, the connections I've made with both of those girls as a result are going to be lifelong, regardless of where our journeys take us. There's a heart connection. Because we learned together and we struggled together and we stuffed up together, basically. So we've made strong connections. So I found the triads invaluable because they give you a chance to experience what tapping is and how it works in a really safe, supportive environment with people who are on a similar journey than you are. So it's a place where you get to be vulnerable and make mistakes and learn, and it's the best sort of learning. We need that practical practice before we work with people and during working with people. So one of the things that one of the girls picked up on in my first tapping session with the other was that I probably could have afforded to be a little bit more flexible and less rigid in the way we were tapping, in the sense that instead of me doing all of the talking, I could have let them do some of the talking and we tap on that. So the very next time I worked with a client, that became my focus and my learning point. So with my next person that I was tapping with, I thought, oh, that's right, Mary said I could have done this. So what I then did was made sure that if it felt right, like it's got to feel organic, and it did, so the universe was providing that opportunity for me to then explore that idea and let that happen. And I did find that it was a lot more powerful for the client. Not always going to be. In that particular instance it was. So now and as I practiced more and tried different things and the different aspects of feedback, it became easier for it to become more organic, less forced, less thought about, and more just in the moment. And I think that's where the triads are invaluable.
So for me, I don't have any abilities. I don't have any healing and things like that. What do you do? What do you say to people that don't have things like that?
You're an idiot. If you're called to this, if you're called to a course like this,
right? If
you're called to any healing modality or any healing work, like really called to it, especially coming from a place where you believe it's well beyond you and you're incapable, then I'd say that you need to trust that you've been called to it and trust that someone or something somewhere is seeing your potential in a stronger way than you currently can. And I think anyone that would be watching this interview and hearing how you're talking to me so authentically and genuinely and owning your truth, what your perception of your truth is, my perception of your truth is different, but I see your potential and the questions you're asking are appropriate. Well, that's coaching.
I know, but I look at the things like that you have the healing and the writing and the teaching, and you have a lot of skills that you've accumulated over the years. So it's inspiring and it's kind of like overwhelming a little bit too, because I know I don't have those.
Can I ask you a question or a couple of questions? Just reverse it for a minute. You have children, yes?
Yes.
Are they alive?
Yes.
Yeah. Is it by accident that they're still alive? How old are they?
18 and 13.
Oh, who raised them?
I did.
Right. And they're quite successful?
They're okay, yeah.
Yeah, doing all right. Nice people. Yeah. What skills don't you have? You've held space for your kids. You've enabled them to nurture, or nurtured them and enabled them to grow, to become empowered young women.
I guess I'm seeing, things like when you're psychic or if you're a healer or hands-on healer and things like that, I don't have those modalities.
But you're becoming a tapper, so you do.
Yeah.
I do believe we're all born with those healing modalities. I believe that if we're a healer, that for a lot of natural healers, that it comes quite easily too, that all we're doing is remembering what we've done for centuries and past lots of incarnations before. We're just remembering who we are. We do the paperwork these days to remember and to cover us for insurance, and that's important to do that. And it's important to keep your training up to date and your qualifications current and relevant. But ultimately, we're just coming from a place of memory.
Because what I'm also hearing is that the more we open the space up and leave the ego, the more things will just come as they're meant to. Yeah. And not to worry about overthink things and
what in teaching and what in my past modalities and what in everything I do has given me that ability? Nothing. That's me. As it can be you and is you, because you're holding space with me now. You're doing it.
So what you're saying is everyone can learn and everyone can develop their skills.
If people are willing to move beyond their ego, if they're willing to come from a place of love and genuine service where they want to empower other people to live a better life, and they're willing to leave themselves at the door, and they're willing to do the work on their own obstacles and their own healing, and they're willing to learn from people around them, and they're willing to listen to their teacher, and they're willing to listen to the feedback of other people and then assess whether that feedback is relevant for them, and so critically analyse and reflect, then sure, I think anybody can enter a healing space. It's not as simple as saying I decide to and I'm an egomaniac, so therefore I'm going to heal the whole entire world. I facetiously say I'm going to heal the cosmos.
Do you think doing this ATI course has helped you with your family and your friends and your relationships around you? Not on a coaching level, but on a personal level?
I think everything that we do impacts the way we view our personal lives and our personal spaces. In what ways has this course empowered me? Number one, as I said to it earlier, I came to it on a Google search because I decided that I needed to become a tapper. And I didn't know what that was. I didn't know what it meant, but I trusted that I was being called. I now know that is definitely, I need to listen to that voice, because that voice has not led me astray here, and it hasn't led me astray in several other incidences. So I know that listening to my voice is the right thing for me. I have gained wonderful friends and mentors through this process. I have been given opportunities to hone my craft with people who are willing to receive and who are willing to throw whatever they can at me to test whether I'm genuine and whether I'm coming from the right place. And I've doubted that at times.
Sure.
But through this course, because of the way it's structured and because of the people who are in it and who come into it with such honest, authentic, genuine trust, and that's held, and that space is held by our teacher, I know that I'm gaining and will continue to gain. It's changed my life. Like it really, I feel that the experiences I've had with Australian Tapping Institute have put me into a position in my life where I'm moving past obstacles for myself, past obstacles in my work as a healer and in friendships and relationships. As a result, I'm shifting. My life has shifted. Is it just the tapping? No, because I'm not living in a bubble with it. But is tapping a predominant source of it? Absolutely, without a doubt.
That's awesome.
It's trusting that we're doing what we're meant to be doing. That I feel that if people are called and they're willing to pay to do a course like this, and they're willing to put themselves into it and really learn. I liked the structure because a lot of it is self-paced, which meant that when I was busy, I could do less. When I was less busy, I had time to sit down and process and work through and go through everything. And I loved that. I love the live calls. I think they're invaluable. I'm regretful that I didn't, because I work at night, that I've missed a lot of them. I've had to watch them on replay and not be part of that group energy, because that group energy is exceptionally special and vibrant. But it's all indispensable. I was then given an opportunity to work and do videos with people like yourself who are willing to put themselves out there with a stranger and say, yeah, I want to work through this, can we do that? And then willingly gave themselves to me to practice on. It's such a gift. I don't know that there are many other places where you find that all of us want each other to succeed and that we're all willing to love each other to enable that to happen.
I think I like the idea too that we can be who, like I said, be who we are, be honest, and feel vulnerable and know that it was safe.
Absolutely.
Even if we are freaking out and we are anxious, that we can learn from and just reflect on it and just grow from that.
Yeah, it's such a gift. And that's what comes when people come to each other without ego and are willing to be genuine. And that's healing. And that works symbiotically. So it works for you as much as it works for me, because we're holding space for each other when we're learning together. And that's what enables us to become the best practitioners we can be, because we then share that light and that love with our clients and with anyone else that comes into our worlds.
And you don't have to believe in the higher self. You don't have to believe in the universe or whatever. It's just, it can be general.
You can be an atheist. Tapping works at a basic scientific level.
Sure.
It works through talking and the neural pathways and changing and altering them through the somatic movement and touching.
So we're not trying to change anyone.
Oh, God, no.
You know.
Everyone's got to be themselves. We all bring our own beliefs and our own lives and our own
and we can
selves.
integrate it all.
Absolutely. So for me, I come from a very strong spiritual healing perspective, but tapping works just as effectively if you don't. And that's the beauty of it. It works. And there's research that's verified to support that. And I think that's where it's different as a natural healing modality as well, because there is a lot of research to support it.
And I just thought of something too, that tapping's good in a way when you don't have the words to express what you're feeling.
Yes.
You might have the emotion, not know how to get the emotion, but the tapping will just get to that deeper level.
Absolutely. Absolutely it does. Yeah, it does. It does. I've worked with people who have been so grief-struck that they haven't been able to speak at all and they've sat there crying. And I have tapped and said words, and they have tapped when they've been able to, but it's enabled them to come to a place of calm where they can then find the words.
And did they feel relief after that?
Absolutely.
So they actually, like, when they finished the tapping off, they just had that bit more calmness about them.
And people feel like, people report. I had one client working with me as one of my practice people. She came to see me twice, and she had quite significant childhood trauma in her relationship with her parents, and there was a lot of resentment there. And within 2 sessions of tapping, she was able to reflect a few months later how impacting that had been on her life, because her relationship with both of her parents had changed.
Wow.
With her mother, it had improved. With her father, she accepted where it was, and that it wasn't going to change, not because of her, but because of where he was at. And she's at greater peace in her relationships with both of her parents. There's no longer that emotional intensity when she thinks about them. And as a result of that, she's been able to spend more time with them, which benefits her whole entire family. And that was 2 sessions of tapping that she credits tapping for.
I think I like the idea of tapping too, because you're helping get through your struggles.
Yeah.
You're not just wallowing at them and just talking about them.
Yeah.
There's an actual outcome that you're looking at.
There is. And it's, I think because it's action based, so we focus on that moment, and you work through the intensity of that moment, and you keep digging until the core issue is resolved.
Not the story.
Not the story, the issue. And that can take several sessions. For some people it takes one. Like I said with that boy initially, it took 1 round of on the face, and he, like, I could see he was being genuine, he's fine, then he worked his butt off for the rest of the session. So everyone's different, and some people have stronger triggers or more blocks to reaching the core issue. So everyone's different in how long it takes. But if you do the work and you're being honest, you're pretty much, I don't want to say guaranteed of results, but something will shift for you.
Did it take a lot of your time out to do this course, this 12 months?
The beauty of this course is that it took time, because it deserves time, but it fit in with a really, like, I was working 7 days a week, and it fit in with that. I made it work with it, and I really liked that. I think so often as an adult, when we enter into any sort of courses, they're so demanding in what they expect that it's like they don't understand we're working, and that most of us are adults and we have other things that we have to tend to as well. So what I liked about this is that it's rigorous and there are high expectations, but it's self-paced. And like I said, you've always got your hands and your voice with you, and you can always hold space. So I was tapping and doing my practice sessions with people. If I had a friend talking to me about something they were going through, I'd say, look, I know this is a bit random, do you mind if we tap on that? And I'd put them through a tapping session just because it fit. And so I was able to fit it in, and that's what I love about it, with normal things in my life. So it's it's work.
In the car, or
I didn't do it when I was driving. I'm not a very good driver. I need to concentrate. I need to be mindful on the road when I'm driving.
So you couldn't tap and drive at the same time?
I wouldn't recommend anyone do that.
Not on your collarbone?
Oh, if I'm stressed, sure. No, that's different if it's just on my collarbone, but I wouldn't do a round of tapping while I'm driving.
Okay.
I was reading, I listened to audiobooks, and I was listening to Gabby Bernstein's, and one of hers, she does a lot of tapping in it. And I attempted to do the tapping whilst I was driving, and that's why I can say with full conviction, not for me. Not wise. Because it takes you into a different space, and you need to be mindful of the road when you're driving.
What about just the tapping on the collarbone?
Sure. But you've really got to have 2 hands on the wheel when you drive.
Of course.
So you might be best pulling over, tapping the intensity away, then driving again. Just don't think I can advocate someone doing anything other than drive when they're in a car, which is a weapon. Just saying.